Hello, all you unsung athletes. Welcome to the Unsung Athlete Podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete, training every day, grinding without excuse, reward or not. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Unsung Athlete Podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose, and I'm here with the one and only Kurt Hartmann. Kurt has devoted his life to growth and strength and movement through martial arts and his gym, ProFitness. Kurt is a husband and dad to three beautiful girls who all follow his entrepreneurial and fitness spirit. Since I began training with you 9 years ago, I can't even believe it, you have built your dream, having health and wellness, function and strength training, and martial arts all under one roof. You have witnessed my own kiddos on the mat since they were 3, and you'd even let me train while they trained. You are such an inspiration, and I'm so excited to have you here and to hear your story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's get started. So, you know me. We've chatted many times, and one of the things that is always top of mind with me is love, and starting with love. Tell me, what excites your heart these days?
Really, my family mostly. It's fun. Like you said, you mentioned the kids in the bio and seeing them kind of take heed and really get involved in what we do and like doing it and like being active that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I see you with your kids on all the equipment all the time. I see your kids sitting there asking if they want to draw your picture and then selling it for like a quarter. And they're the best. You too have seen them from the time they've been born. Now, 2 of your kids are on the mats.
Yeah, it's
That's
fun to see them with the gi on.
such a proud moment for you, I would
Yep.
imagine. So, I know you've been an athlete for a very long time.
hmm
And you've trained in martial arts and you've coached hundreds of athletes. Yet, in this moment, do you consider yourself an athlete and why?
It's tough. The way I view the term athlete, I guess I'm definitely athletic, but I don't get to compete like I used to. So that's where I would say I'm not quite an athlete as much anymore, but I definitely have athletic capabilities.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting when you say you don't compete, because really the definition of being an athlete is perfecting your craft.
Yeah,
And you do that
I do.
every single day. And you're constantly doing challenges, injured, tired, whatever.
Yeah.
So you're an athlete in my mind, but I
Thank you.
do always like to. I think it's interesting to hear your perspective.
I'm not an active competitor anymore, if that matters.
But if you were, I could probably see you with a couple medals. And we all started somewhere. So back when you didn't even know what you were capable of, tell me your origin story. When did you first see yourself as an athlete?
Probably when I really started getting involved in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I played sports, like baseball and football and stuff growing up, but I never really was like all in on
Yeah.
them, I guess. But when I first really started competing in Taekwondo, that
How old were you?
I was 16,
Okay.
17 when I first really started taking it seriously.
And what was that? Like what flipped? You played all these sports. What really flipped to you saying, "Oh, I'm an athlete"?
Getting on a podium,
Really?
yeah, that was kind of like, oh, like I'm not bad at this. I don't completely suck. That was my first like I can do this.
So someone else recognizing that you are good in this and saying, like, with criteria, I'm going to give you a medal on
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was like the first time, I guess.
So I mean, recognizing you're an athlete, having that origin story, I'd love to know more about your martial arts journey. So, for my listeners, if you have ever, and if you ever get a chance to stop by Pro Fitness in Eden Prairie, you have to look at the walls and check out Kurt's office. It tells a story that is humbling. And it's always, with a humble heart myself, that he keeps this in his office. He doesn't show it off all over his gym, but when you walk into his office, you see accolades and you see multiple black belts. Tell us about that journey, and also tell me a little bit about how you moved past Taekwondo to really become a martial artist.
Well, yeah, I guess for the start of it, I was kind of partying a little bit and hanging out with people. And I remember we were in the middle of the party, and just one night I was like, I'm gonna get my black belt, and it was for Taekwondo time. And I remember a buddy being like, "Yeah, right," and it made me so mad that it was like discrediting that he said that. I was like, "Oh no, like watch me, like now I'm gonna do it for sure." But I guess the transition out of that was my first experience at the Academy at Brooklyn Center. I think I was a second degree black belt at the time, and I thought like I know what I'm doing. I'd placed at state and I like performed well, and I was like, oh, I know how to fight. And like I went in there, and there was a brown belt. I've probably told this story before. His name was Jin. He owns the academy in Latvia now. And walking in, I got my fresh trial gi. He's about my size, and he says, "You white belt, you come here."
You're a secondary black belt,
In
and he called you.
Taekwondo.
Oh,
In
he
Taekwondo at
called
the time.
you.
But I had my white belt jiu-jitsu on, and he did whatever he wanted to me without effort. And I went and signed up that day. It was right after my first trial class. I was like, whatever he just did, I clearly don't know what I'm doing, so I need to learn that. And I think I've been there like 17 years since.
So I love this because you do bring that white belt spirit with you all the time. Some people who might have just had their ass handed to them, right? Coming in thinking they know everything, had their ass handed to them, they might have walked out of there pissed off and just gotten back to the thing they know. And instead, you said, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
this. Whatever he did, I want to do and I want to do better.
Yeah. It made me realize how little I actually knew and thought I was capable of.
Right.
It was very, very humbling and eye opening.
Oh my gosh. Number one, I cannot picture you at that point because I only know you now. But you also, I mean, besides your incredible martial arts journey, and I mean, what degree black belt are you now in jujitsu?
Two stripe, so it's second degree.
That's crazy. And how long did it take you to get that?
The black belt itself, almost 10 years. And then each degree you get from there is 3 years past that. So
Yeah.
I think now I've been a black belt for going on 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the point is that, there are, like you say, there are other programs where you can advance quickly.
Yeah.
There are pay to play programs
Yeah.
where, you pay for that level. But there is something to being under lineage where you need to earn it. And not only do you need to earn it with time, you need to be invited to test for that next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah.
It might take you 10 years, might take someone else 20.
Yeah. And someone else might do 5. You don't know.
No. We talk about, you and I have talked about this, where I myself am on my own black belt journey with Muay Thai, and I watch other younger people who fight and spend all day in the gym advance faster than me. And I have to remind myself that a martial arts journey is your own individual journey.
100%. Yeah. Everyone's on a different path.
Everyone.
Mhm.
It's like incredible to honor that. So, like I mentioned, besides your martial arts journey, you own and operate ProFitness. So, this is a strength and mobility gym that has changed not only my life, but so many lives around you. And you've built something really special here that I don't see in many places. It's a place where it's crazy. You see people in their 20s or teens. My daughter was
Yeah.
13,
Yeah.
weight lift all the way up to people in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Consistently
Yeah.
and training side by side. I also see some people in their 70s here who are ripped
Yeah.
a lot more than me. Their performance is nuts. They're doing pull ups and things that I can't even do. And you are behind that. So you also create a place where everyone feels welcome to show up as they are. I remember showing up even on Monday, and I did no weights. I stretched.
Yeah.
I was close to tears. I had a really hard weekend, and you just said, it's okay. That's what Mondays are about, just moving. And so it's incredible to have a place where you create that for people. Tell me your pro fitness story. Like, how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do, and how did you make it happen?
Well, I was at the time I was teaching at a Taekwondo school, and I didn't know what I was going to go to college for. So I was like just taking random courses, and I started to go for accounting because I like understood the math.
Accounting?
Yeah, no joke. And I had a 7 a.m. like intro class to accounting, and a teacher spoke like Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I'll never forget, he told a math joke. There's like 100 and some odd kids in the room, and like 3 kids laughed. And I stood up and I was like, I can't do this.
I can't do it.
And I walked out and was like, that's not my people. And my Taekwondo instructor at the time was like, why don't you get a degree in exercise? And I was like, you can't get a degree in exercise. Like, what are you talking about? lo and behold, you can. So I went back to school, started studying health and fitness and kinesiology, biomechanics, all that fun stuff. Got my degree in exercise sciences, and then one thing kind of led to another. I was still teaching at Taekwondo school. I was teaching at a kettlebell place, and then I was personal training people out of my uncle's patio. And I was kind of bouncing around. And oddly enough, the Taekwondo school that I was at didn't want me teaching a lot of the kettlebell stuff because they thought at the time they could hurt people, like throwing weights around.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
kettlebell place I was at didn't want me teaching like kickboxing or martial arts because they thought you could hurt people are going to get hurt. So they thought it was like an insurance liability. And I just decided to bring everything I was doing under one roof.
Yeah. Because you knew it all worked together.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I view it as it's all just movement.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like you said for Monday. Like the whole principle of everything we do here at ProFitness is it's based on a movement first principle. The weight you're lifting is kind of relevant. You need to have good movement patterns before you start loading that with added weights and added resistance. Otherwise, you lead to injuries. Which was another thing that kind of melded me into this path is I've hurt myself quite a bit.
What? No.
So I've learned to rehab and fix and stay away from a lot of injuries, which I'm able to apply to movement
Yeah.
stuff that we do.
Well, and your classes are one thing, but you have also brought martial arts, the academy that, brought you into jujitsu under this roof. And you have a chiropractic office under this roof. So you have this holistic view on the athlete.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what your age.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the body is all one unit.
Yes.
It should work accordingly.
I love it. All in one place. You can train and get stronger and move better. You can also go be sane by hitting things and wrestling. And then you can get your back cracked.
One stop shop.
So you do a lot. Like I mentioned, you're a dad, you're a business owner, and you find time to train. But how do you keep yourself going as an athlete? Running this business, coaching, doing all of these things every day, knowing that there is no major award waiting for you at the end of the day. Like, what drives you to keep doing all of this?
I'm obsessed. My brain can't turn it off.
Yeah.
So I mean, I watch people move and I can tell like, oh, their hips are off, that hamstring's tight, and I can just see it. And I don't know how to explain that other than I just know it when I see it. And I've been blessed to be able to have that eye and then understand how to apply that and help people
Right.
fix those problems.
But like knowing that, right? This is your passion, this is your skill. Like, how does that feed you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm obsessed. So like, if something, if I don't understand something or I don't know, I will obsess about finding it out. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly curious, I guess is the best way to put it. So you mentioned that white belt mentality. And I get that from my coach, Greg. Like just approach everything as a white belt. Like you can learn something from every individual, every encounter. So just kind of sit back and let it unfold.
That insatiable curiosity is how you just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, even with your injuries and all of that, you still come in. But how do you rest and recover? Like, what's your version of rest and recover? Do it well. Yeah, I'll do it poorly. I know.
Emma was just giving me crap out there. I'm not great at that. I like those isolation tanks, those float
Really?
chambers. Yeah, I really. That's like one place where I can like relax and shut off.
Which the isolation chambers, for those who don't know, what is that?
Little Epsom salt bath.
Yeah.
You lock yourself. Well, it's in a room at a facility, but they have it's 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, a few inches of water, so you float in the water, and then the water is the temperature of your body, so you're kind of unaware that you're floating in the water. It's a little bit of a mind game in there too.
And is it
fun.
silent?
Silent. I like it silent. You can listen to music if you want to.
Whoa.
I prefer it silent.
Ooh, I have to check that out.
Yeah.
The ringing in my ears might get, but does that eventually just go away?
I also, I'll move as a form of meditation, relaxation, and reset. As I will just do different types of exercises. So even my rest isn't exactly full on rest. Yeah, it's more active rest.
Do something maybe you love or a little gentler.
Gentler, yeah.
Or flow.
Yep, I'll do some flow rolls and be very picky on my partners that I choose to train with that day.
I love that. And I know exactly what you're talking about. So I know you have a couple of these stories, but maybe pick one. But we all have been knocked down and had to start over in our athletic journey, in our lives. And it really is proving to the world that can't really isn't in your vocabulary. So tell me your comeback story when you came back.
My most recent one, I guess, would have to be during the whole COVID shutdown. Just so happened to have blown out my knee right before the world shut down. So I had to get a meniscus repair in my knee. And then I also, during that time, had found out that I signed some not so good agreements in the business end, what were known as unconscionable, meaning they were so heavily in the other person's favor that they were not legally binding.
Wow.
Yeah. So all that was going on, and I was kind of watching the gym kind of circle the drain a little bit. So being able to still be here and have this conversation in this room right now is kind
A
of a
miracle.
miracle. Like that was a big one.
You,
That was the biggest knockdown comeback so far.
you also, I mean, you did so many things to m- make it so easy to keep us engaged and to keep your
Tried.
community alive.
I did. I definitely tried. Yeah.
And it was really incredible because I had no idea you were going through that, but where you were also looking for your own sanity, we all were too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. When
And
I wasn't. That's why I was like kind of thinking about like well everyone was kind of going through it at the time, but
no, but
yeah.
meaning you provided, space virtually and through emails and all kinds of engagements for us to still be present in this community and stay in contact. Otherwise, I mean, I would have been very lonely. You also have told me a comeback story, so maybe you could dive into this one too. And I think this also led to some of your curiosity around the body, rewiring the body. I believe it was a back injury.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling that
No,
story?
no, no.
Because to me, it's so interesting.
So that was actually pre-college even. I was in a rollover accident when I was 18, 19 years old, and I went to physical therapy for like 6 months. I mean, at the time, if I bend over right now, you can still see one side of my back is a little elevated versus the other, and I couldn't reach past my knees, like doing a toe touch. And after like 6 months of physical therapy, they were basically like throwing their hands up, like, "Oh well, we don't think you should do any more. Your workouts should change. You shouldn't be doing martial arts anymore. And if it proceeds, we're going to want to do surgery." Young and dumb and kind of cocky. And I was like, well, it's supposed to move. Like that was my whole base. Like
Amazing.
it's meant to do it. So like, what do I have to do to do it? Luckily, that's kind of where the obsession started. I really started diving into kinesiology and biomechanics and just kind of finding out like, okay, these are the muscles that are bothering me. These are the ones that are limiting my range of motion. Those are connected to these. And basically, how do I unravel this puzzle? And after like 6 months of my own stuff, I was able to get palms and back of wrist back on the floor in a toe touch. So I was kind of able to hack my way back into my own movement pattern. And then the obsession just went crazy after that.
You told me once, many years ago, again, I've almost been training with you for a decade and I can't believe it, that if one part of you is injured, you still have all these other parts that work.
Yeah.
And even if you have something that's permanently injured, meaning there's always going to be scar tissue or stiffness or something that's locked, there's still all of this, like these neurons and tissues and fascia surrounding that can still communicate. And so I remember you talking about how you can rewire your body to bypass some of those things that don't.
Well, if you can move it, you can improve it, is kind of like the quick slogan that I say. But like, if you can move your body, you can do the best you can where you are with what you have, and you can improve upon that a lot.
Right.
Just by staying consistent and by putting in the work.
Right. Little by little. I always tell my kids, change does not happen with the big things. It happens with the little things consistently over time.
Better is better. If I was only able to move this an inch that time, but I got an inch and a quarter the next time, that's still better than my first time.
You had me
that day by day.
working a deep glute and low back issue on my left, and you had me do this one motion and it literally looked like my leg was ticking, like a second hand. And you're like, okay, so there's a neurological piece, there's a physical piece there. And the goal was not even at the point to get more range of motion. The goal was to get that to go smoothly. That was it. That was the goal. And I'm going, oh, I can do that. And I did it for, I mean, I still am doing it. This is a month later.
Yeah, it's harder than
And
most people think.
right. And also when you have like regular things here in Minnesota, the cold and we're sitting in chairs and all of that working against it, it isn't always about being perfect in these things, but like you say, better is better.
Hmm.
So if I can in the morning wake up stiff,
Yeah,
but by the end of the day be moving, that's something.
that's a win.
That's a win.
Well, you mentioned that so that our joints should be able to move through a smooth, fluid range of motion through their entire capabilities. So when you notice those ticks or
Yeah.
like shifts in the joint, that's when you can tell that some of the tissues are either off or, like you said, there's a neurological impulse that's happening to that area that's not communicating the way that it should to those tissues in that area.
It's
And that's through
great. Yeah.
scar tissue or tension, basically.
And it's crazy too how even your mind, like, so I know if I've had pain for a while, then I've got fear that surrounds that, right? So I'm protecting it. So even if it can move, my mind is saying, no, 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 no.
And it is a huge mind game. That's
Huge.
yeah. And
It's
then
going.
coming back after any injury like that, you are going to have those hesitations where, like, ooh, I don't know. I remember what happened last time.
Right.
And rewiring your brain to realize and training your body to realize that it's okay to do those things again.
I think that's the one thing missing sports psychology in this building. We all have people in our lives that have inspired us, who have helped us realize we're athletes. Who is that one person in your life that you have thanked or like to thank? And how have they helped you and inspired you to become an athlete?
That's a good question. There's kind of a lot of people.
Oh, I would assume. And you can name more than one if that's what you'd like to do.
My coach, Greg Nelson.
Yeah.
You can look up his bio. Unreal. He's a fascinating and extremely motivational, inspirational person. My early on Taekwondo instructors, when they realized that I had anger issues and they taught me how to work through them and guide me through that. My uncle Terry, who let me live in his house and train people out of his house while I was going to school. I owe a lot of that to him.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say. There's been a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people along the way. It takes a village. My good friend John, who has helped me in more ways than one, and that's why I go to those elk hunts with. Yeah, I've been lucky to be around. The longer I do this, I get to be around great people,
Right.
yourself included. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It puts you around good people.
It's so true. When you're working to better yourself and you surround yourself with people who are doing the same, it's a different conversation.
Yeah, when people want you to win,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, Greg, you talked about Greg Nelson.
Mm.
I mean, we've talked about how blessed we are to
Yeah.
be part of his lineage
Yeah.
and how you would never know it if you met him.
Very humble, very unassuming.
Again, you walk into his office and his gym, and it's just a testament. And you are a part of that, and you're carrying that forward
fun.
to
Very cool.
impact so many other people.
I try, and I don't take it lightly. The same the Lees that I learned the Taekwondo from World Taekwondo Academy. That's the same there. You would never know it, but they're coaching at Olympic levels and doing things like that. And I was just lucky
Yeah.
enough to be around the right people at the right time for them to guide me in certain directions and nudge me to stay on the path that I've been on.
You had some forces who
Yeah,
were probably different. Go over here, look at this person.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have people trying to pull you off those paths too.
Yeah.
Along the way too. So
I love hearing you also talk. You said about your uncle. Is it
Yeah.
the same uncle that also made you do all these chores and kept you out of trouble? Was that
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
uncle? It was a little harder on you
Yeah.
at points, but you talk about that.
My
like,
grandfather was another one.
and your grandfather
Yeah.
shaping you
Yeah.
and that mentality. Like you talk about that dark place in your brain that you go when you go and hit
Yeah.
pads and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible what you do. You yourself are quite humble.
Thank you.
So when people think of Kurt Hartman, what do you want them to think, say, and feel? Like, what do you want your legacy story to be?
That I cared, that I showed up, and that I was willing to put in the work.
Well, number one, I know you care.
Oh, thank you. I I do love that's tough too. Is I get very attached
Yeah.
to a lot of people that come in the gym community. Whether they come go like I could tell you people who trained with me 15 years ago that I haven't seen because I'll still send emails and cards like, hey, just check it. Like
How are you? Are you advancing on your
like I'll ask people all the time. Like, I hope you're still working out. I hope you're still doing. Like I hope you're still moving.
Yeah. Well, and even like I said, one of the people don't think about this, but when you have kids and you just always want your kids to be cared for, when I was able to come here and care for myself and my kids and advance my girls in something that was going to make them better. And at the same time, I was being better. And you
Fun.
provided that. That to me was just, that is your legacy. And your kids are now your legacy. Like, this is just to me an incredible legacy that you've created, and all those things you want people to think, you just are.
Well, I never really think about what other people think.
Right.
I'm constantly just doing, so I don't.
Right.
Very unaware, blissfully unaware, probably in some cases.
But stopping and just acknowledging, it's pretty special.
It's fun. I feel very lucky.
So now for our final question, and you've got just a quick 30 seconds to answer. In a world where there is so much just negativity and darkness, there is also incredible light and inspiration. What is one thing you would say to inspire the world to be a better place for your girls?
Do the best you can with what you have, where you are. I think that'd be the easiest way to sum it up.
Yes, like, and
Always do good, help when you can.
always do good and help when you can. But I love that. Do the best with what you have, where you're at, because it's true. Sometimes you think, oh, if I only had this, I could do more. And that might be true. But if you don't ever bring that action into the now, it never gets started, right? Like, I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
Well, be happy now with what you have in the way you can. Incredible. Well, thank you for being here and showing us all the true heart of an unsung athlete.
Thank you for having me. It was a long overdue. I know we had to work to get here, so.
It was incredible. I'm so happy. Thank you for joining us on the Unsung Athlete podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Keep grinding without excuse.